Hey guys, this is Sean Manaher welcoming you back to the second in our video email series about blog tours. If you haven't checked out the previous video, please feel free to do so. We'll link for it or link to it below and you can check it out there. In that video, we started the conversation about what is a blog tour, covered having an amazing product to begin with, talking about goals with blog tours, and scheduling your blog tour. All really good information that you want to be sure to check out. So preview that video. And thank you to everyone who has given feedback and comments about this video email update for authors on the weekly basis that you're getting in your Tuesday tips email. So keep up the feedback, really appreciate it. And we're going to kick things off. Today, we're going to be covering three areas today. So the first one is the number of blogs that you're going to want to be on. The second is researching blogs. Again, really important. We underscored that last time. And then the third one is communication and materials. Lots to cover today, so we'll get started right now. So the first thing is number of blogs. So in this case, you're trying to determine, like we had said, how many blogs do you want to be on? Blogs do you want to have your tour for? So if you're having a longer length tour, you're going to need more blogs to be on, and therefore you need to make some considerations with the blogs that you're choosing. And we'll get into research in just a little bit, but with this, the number of blogs, you want to consider your genre. Are there a lot of bloggers out there in your genre? Maybe, maybe not. Most books, you're going to find some people talking about your blogs. So you want your genre. So you'd want to make sure you take a look and find some people that are in your genre. In addition, how long you have been writing really may indicate or dictate how many blogs that you can get on. So maybe if you're new to writing and your name is not out there, you might have a more difficult time than if you've been writing for a longer period of time. Not to dissuade you, but just to give some realistic expectation that early on, if you're a new author, you may have a little bit more difficult time finding people to put you on their blog, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try and get out there and really give your best effort towards that. The other thing that we're looking at is the number of books that you have published and are available. So what you can consider with the number of blogs is if you have a series of books, you might want to consider including that in the blog tour, where you do a blog tour not just on the most recent release or update that you're doing, but on the other books in the series. And so let's say you have 7 books in your series. Well, why not do, as part of the content that you're creating, a series of blog tours that focus on one of the books for each of the blogs that you're going to be on. There's 7 right there. If you have 3, start with 3, times that by 2, you have 6. So there's a lot of opportunity if you have a number of pieces of work in your catalog of books. The other thing is that when you're looking at the number of blogs that you want to be on, you want to consider that it's 1 to 2 blogs per day that you're going to be connecting on. So this gives you the idea that you don't want to necessarily, well, too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. And it can wane on people if you're having so much of your book and your information out there that it becomes inundated and people are not connecting with you any longer. So you'd want to consider that when you're thinking about the number of blogs that you want to connect with and have part of your blog tour. So that's what we talked about. We talked about in this section for number of blogs, the genre, how long you've been writing, the number of books published and available, whether you have a standalone book or a series, and asking or considering that it's 1 to 2 blogs per day is a good rule of thumb when you're doing your blog tour. The next section we're going to be looking at is researching blogs. And in this section, we're going to be covering 2 main areas and then some sub areas within those. So the first area that we're going to be talking about is searching for blogs. It is this process of utilizing tools to find the bloggers that you want to connect with. The next section that we're going to talk about is a little bit more in depth, is criteria for the blog selection process. So let's get started in this researching the blog series or section here. The first one is search. And as you know, if you have been online for any amount of time, there's this really cool thing called a search engine and Google. And by utilizing Google, you can save yourself, or you can utilize this as your main tool in order to find blogs that are going to be useful for your blog tour. But within that, you might want to consider some specific searches that you would type in to Google. So one of those might be book review blogs, another blog tour blogs, guest posting for authors. So if there's a website that might be offering guest posting opportunities for authors, they may also want to do a blog tour. Bracket genre book reviews. And what I mean by that is insert your genre: romance book reviews, historical fiction book reviews, nonfiction book reviews, whatever your genre is. Put that first and then type in book reviews. And there are literally thousands of opportunities for bloggers, or you to find bloggers that would be interested in doing book reviews. The other search would be video book reviews, especially on YouTube. It's very popular for people to do a video book review. And you want to search for those individuals. And when you find them, we'll talk about that in a little bit of what you would do when you're reaching out to them. But there are you can continue to consider other searches that you would want to include. If you do have some suggestions and you want to share them with everybody else, feel free to post them in the comments on YouTube or email us, and we'll be sure to include those. So beyond that, when you are searching, you're going to also want to search for blog directories. There are blogs for almost anything out there, in hundreds of millions, literally hundreds of millions of blogs that people have started. And you'd want to consider searching for blog directories that would be able to save yourself some time. And you can Google blog directories to find who those, what those websites are, and then continue your search process. This searching process does take time. I'm not going to kid you on that. If you're going to do this effectively, and again, considering how many blogs that you want to reach out to and what you're going to be sharing with them, you're not going to have 100% return or 100% positive response rate. Some people just may not get your email. Some people may not be interested. Others just may ignore it and not want to do a blog tour. So that's okay. So realize you're going to need, I would suggest, twice as many blogs than you have for your blog tour. So if you have 21 blogs that you want to target, then I would suggest that you find 42 bloggers to reach out to. And we'll talk about reaching out to them in just a little bit. So when you're looking at the blogs that you want to connect with, there's certain criteria that I would recommend that you consider when you're doing this process. So the first thing would be, an easiest option for you would be, if you've done a blog tour before, well, reach out to those bloggers that you've worked with before. That's a very simple way to do that. Genre, you'd want to determine based on your most wide and broad genre type. So if you're in romance, then you'd want to search for romance. If you're in historical romance or young adult, and you start to niche down into your area, first, when you're starting, I would recommend going for the broader approach, just to find as many as possible, and then try and find people who are within your specific niche or type of genre that you're looking for. And in that, you can, by thinking of them as concentric circles, is that your specific niche and type of genre may be available out there. So I would ultimately try and get to as many of those as possible, but it doesn't hurt you to be in these broader ranges of wider ranges of the genre type, so that you get a greater exposure. There's some other criteria that we're going to talk about in a little bit that will also qualify what you would want to do in deciding who should be in the blog tour. With that, you'd want to sort by reach and for these bloggers. So you're starting to curate your list of bloggers. And then with that, I would also include how many followers they have on Twitter, how many, if you know this, how many email people they have on their subscriber. If they have an RSS indicator on their website, that's the RSS feeder that ultimately sends the blog information into people's emails. If you see how many numbers or how many people they have on their RSS feed, that's a good indicator of reach. So we're talking about social, email, the RSS, and any other indicator that would help you to know how many people and how much opportunity you have to reach with them. With that, you would want to find individuals who have quality with quantity in terms of fans and followers. And what do I mean by this is simply, yes, 10,000 people that you could reach out to on a social media platform that somebody has 10,000 followers is fantastic. But if they have very little engagement happening on their Twitter page, well, then you might want to reconsider if you have another person that has 10,000 followers and they have a lot of engagement, or if you find somebody that has a very small following, but the engagement is through the roof, then consider them as an option to reach out to, because they are getting engagement, and for some reason, and whatever the reason might be, they might have a community that's really active and connected with this particular blogger. So you'd want to consider both quantity and quality when you are looking for bloggers. The other thing that we're talking about is finding people who do reviews for your book genre and book type. So lots of, in the search recommendations that we had earlier, we had talked about searching for those that do book reviews. So the next logical thing in that search is using that as a criteria. Somebody who is already doing book reviews is going to be an easier sell than somebody who doesn't do book reviews. The simple process of elimination, if you're wanting to make it easier for yourself, find those that are doing book reviews. Beyond that, you also want to do two things that you might be a little bit uncomfortable doing. Number one is reaching out to people you don't know at all. And may not be in your specific genre. And what do I mean by that is, oftentimes authors, and I'm guilty of this myself, we, when we're trying to get word out about our book, we oftentimes go to the groups in the same wells that we've been going to time and time again. Well, why not reach out to a blogger that you don't know, but also may not be specifically in your genre or type? And this might be, you'd want to find commonality, so affinity groups that might be nice connections for you. But this will give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to new audiences that you may not be thinking about. The other thing is that don't just stick to blogs within your country. So if you are in the US and you're thinking of bloggers and you're finding them all in the United States, and that's great, but make sure that you look for blogs specifically in other countries that might be interested in your genre type and interested in your books. So with that, these are the ideas of what you can do in terms of curating and making determination of the bloggers that you want to connect with. I believe that it's really important that you take the time to curate and establish this criteria so that you're in the decision-making process that you have going on in the bloggers that you're connecting with. You're not going after people that are not going to be worthwhile. You're being selective, and by being selective, you actually, in my mind, stand out a little bit more. That's the difference between somebody who might be desperate for any kind of attention versus somebody who is really thought it through and give it consideration. By giving it consideration, people will know that you're serious about this blog tour, and you're going to do an amazing job with it. So we covered a number of things. The two main areas that we're covered in this researching the blogs is search utilizing Google and searching through blog directories to find the bloggers that you want, and then all of the criteria and selection process that you are going to be utilizing with your book or with your blog tour selection of the bloggers that you're connecting with. Tongue twisting there, but I think you get the gist of it. This next section we're going to be covering is communication in materials. Lots to cover here in this section, but I'll try to make it quick. And with that, we're going to be covering the introduction and the ask, what you should include, making sure that you're considering what's in it for the blogger, what content you might want to include in that initial email. We're going to be considering what the email length should be, what your follow-up plan would want to be, and then the things that you would want to consider with the blog tour. So let's get started with this. The first section in covering the introduction and the ask is what's in it for them. So what's in it for the blogger? When you're reaching out to them, you'd want to make sure that you're clear on what the benefit is for them. And so a couple things you might want to consider for them is, number one is traffic. They're going to not only get one-time blog tour traffic because you're promoting their blog with your list and letting everybody else know about the blog tour that's going to happen. They're going to get that one-time boost of traffic, but they're also going to get ongoing traffic because of the SEO value that having your content on their website is going to bring. So in addition to that, there is going to be the social traffic that will be coming on the initial outset and on the ongoing basis. So you want to be clear to them that what the benefit is for you, for them to do this blog tour, is traffic, is going to be both the organic and the social, and both the one-time and the ongoing. The other thing that's what's in it for them as the blogger is monetization opportunities. If they're not familiar with doing affiliate marketing for the books that you're going to sell, let them know that if you utilize Amazon's Associates program, they can make some money by people clicking through onto your book link and then them getting a small commission for the book sales. That's a really good opportunity. And then any other way in which they can monetize this book tour, you'd want to share with them what that could be. And then the final thing is additional exposure, dependent on how broad and wide you do the blog tour. When a blogger becomes known as somebody who is doing book tours, blog tours for authors, then other authors are going to reach out to them. So the word spreads quickly, and if they're known to be receptive to this type of marketing for authors, then other authors are going to connect with them, and then it all starts back over again with the opportunity for traffic, for affiliate, and all of that stuff. So what's in it for them? We covered that: traffic, monetization, and additional author exposure. The next thing we're going to talk about in the introduction is content to include. When you're writing that initial email, and I'll give you an example in just a second here of what I might use in order to entice somebody to do a blog tour with me, is you want to cover first the introduction to yourself. You'd want to just include something really quick about you so that they know who you are. The next thing you want to include is a synopsis of the book, what you have shared, what the book is about, whether it's a fiction or nonfiction. Give them a quick snippet about the book so that they know what's going on. The next thing is to share tour information. Included in that is the dates of when you would want to do the tour. If you have a specific date for the specific blogger, then you would want to let them know what that is, and the types of posts, that is the types of content that you're looking for from them or that you could provide to them if they're part of the blog tour. So the last couple things before I get into an example is you'd want to include a cover image if that's all ready, and then you would want to include a call to action. And what you'll hear this in just a little bit, is that you'd want to be very specific that you want them to be part of the tour. So you need to ask them to be part of the tour. And so what I would say is that call to action would sound something like, I would like you to be part of my tour. I would like for you to be part of my blog tour. Whatever that wording is, you would want to let them know that this is an ask. They're asking them specifically. So let's give an example of this. This is an example of a blog tour email that I'm going to be sending out for a book that I'm going to be releasing in March of 2015. So here we go. My name is Sean Manaher, and I am a nonfiction business author, self-published on Amazon. Would you be interested in being part of, there's a call to action, of the How to Start a Business in 24 Hours blog tour in March 2015. The book is about how an individual can go from determining the best idea for their business to launching it within 24 hours. If you say yes and you decide on one of these, if you say yes, you can decide on one of these content types: interview, that is an audio or video or text; book review, book reading; or guest blog by me. How to Start a Business in 24 Hours will be released on March 15th, 2015, and I would love to have you part of my tour. Thanks, Sean Manaher. As you can see, pretty simple, very easy to follow, and you're welcome to use this as a template in sending out your blog tour email. So we'll include this along with all the notes in the YouTube link, so that you can take a look at the comments or the description section there, so that you can copy and paste that and do whatever you want with that. So as a review for this section really quick, is the content to include in the introduction email is the introduction to you, synopsis of the book, tour information, the call to action, and if it's ready, a cover image. Now, when we're looking at all of this, you might have already seen it as pretty obvious, but the email length should be less than 150 words. We're trying to make sure, realize that bloggers are busy just like you're busy, so don't go crazy in writing out all of your information and giving them a page upon page synopsis of the book. One additional note, if you can fit this in within the 150 words, is if you've already booked blog tours with well-known bloggers in your niche, it's best to include that as social proof. So, for example, you might want to include at the beginning, "Hi, my name is Sean Manaher. I'm a nonfiction business author, self-published on Amazon. Would you be interested in being part of the How to Start a Business in 24 Hours blog tour in March 2015. We've been fortunate enough to have included XYZ bloggers already on the tour, and I would be happy to include you as well. The book is about," and then go on from there. So a nice quick ad would provide some social proof for you, and I think that could stick within that 150 words. Let's move on. We're carrying on here. The next section that we're going to really quickly cover is follow-up. So when you initially send out that first introductory email, if you don't get a response, it's okay to send another email just letting them know, "Hey, hope you got my last email. Would really love to have you on my blog tour. Again, here are the dates. If you have any questions, please let me know." Send that a week after. Still no response, then send one quick final follow-up a week after that. So you don't want to drag this out and hound them if they're not interested, if they're not getting it. It's okay, move on to the next person. And again, consider this in your follow-up process. Don't worry about silence. Silence does not mean that they don't like your book or they don't like you as an individual. It simply means they just might not have gotten the email. They may not be interested in doing blog tours, or they're just busy and they haven't checked their email. Things happen. So that's the follow-up section. Next, we're going to be talking about blog tour event, the actual event and the content and materials that you'd want to have prepared so that you can do an effective blog tour. So in this, we're going to be covering a few sections. The first section is we're going to be covering various exchanges through the tour, things that you're going to be emailing back and forth you want to consider. The actual event and covering content for that. The 1 week before content, then the thank you after the blog tour, and then the next blog tour. So in the first section, various exchanges throughout the tour, just realize that you're going to be having to create emails content. You're going to be having to figure out topics for the blogs that you're going to be creating. There's going to be a variety of different emails. This is going to take organization, as we talked about before, and a steady stream of content that you're going to be writing for this blog tour. We're going to be talking about extensively in the next video about the different content types that you can produce, and we're not going to go into it now, but just realize that you're going to have that. So when the event goes live for the blog tour, you would want to make sure that each blogger is informed about what they should be doing and what you would want to include, what you would want to give to them so that they're prepared to help you to have the best blog tour possible. So the event, in that you'd want to make sure when you're crafting your email that you request the blogger to share it with their list. You would want to make sure that you're leveraging their audience as much as possible, so make sure you ask them for that. The other thing is you'd want to request the blogger to share it on Facebook, Twitter, social media. There is a great app or software out there that's called Thunderclap that you can utilize in order to get the word out about your social media campaign, and you can include this author or this blogger on it so that they can get the word out as well. The other thing that you would want to make sure that you include in the event is obviously the content types. And again, we're going to be exploring that in the next video, but you would want to let them know that this is the content for the event and that you've included it in the email to them, or you've included a document so that they're prepared for it. In addition to that, if they want to provide more PR information about you, you would want to create a small media kit. And in that media kit is a 2 to 4 page 2 to 4 pages. It's going to be useful for the bloggers and newspapers and other social media types. It's going to include a synopsis of you. It's going to include a cover of the book. It's going to include excerpts within the book. And if you've already have reviews done, you'd want to include several reviews so that they can include that as part of the content that they're going to put on their blog. Finally, you're going to want to include links for on all published locations, whether that's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Smashwords, or Kobo, or wherever you have it published. All of that is going to be content that you're going to need to create for the event leading up to and informing the blogger of what you want them to put on their blog, or at least gives them the opportunity to have all this content available so that your blog tour goes off well. Now, 1 week before the event, you would want to give a reminder of the post going live. And what I would recommend is that you encourage the blogger to post the content at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the reason for that time frame is that gives it time enough for it to index within Google, and then also it is ready and waiting to be consumed by their readers first thing in the morning. We don't know exactly when everybody's going to be reading these blogs, but if you have it ready early enough in the morning, that will help to get the word out sooner. So beyond that, you would want to make sure in the content that you're producing, you would want to make sure that you thank them after the blog tour is done. So either a couple of days or a week after, you'd want to send them a nice thank you note and letting them know how much their time on the blog tour helped you. And if you have specific numbers, you're welcome to share that, or you don't have to, but just reach out to them. Let them know that what they did was a huge impact on you, even if you did this as a paid service and utilizing somebody else to do the work. Individually asking the service to get the emails so that you can email those bloggers is going to be really important, just something to be nice about and share with them your appreciation directly from you. I think that's just a nice touch. Finally, in the process of content, you want to make sure that you're thinking about these bloggers for the next tour. And so as you prepare, go through the process of looking at what content worked well, what content didn't work well, and from there you can then take what was awesome and then throw out what was not, so that your next blog tour is even better than this one. So as a recap on this section, we talked a bit about the blog tour event, the various exchanges that you're going to have throughout the tour. Just be prepared for that. This is very content heavy. The event itself, when that gets kicked off, you have a number of different things that you would want to include for the blogger so that they know what you want them to do. 1 week before the event, you have a kickoff email that you want to make sure that they are aware of, and give them all the information so that they're prepared to launch that early enough in the day. And then that thank you after the blog tour is done. And then finally, at the end of all of it, just measuring what worked and didn't work. There's a lot of content that we talked about today. There were the 3 sections that we covered: the number of blogs, researching blogs, communication and materials. Again, if you have any questions in these areas specific to these, let us know. Happy to answer those questions about the blog tours and that type of content. Your feedback is always welcome. And in the next video, you're going to be looking forward to us talking about content for the blogs, platforms to use and how to use them, and giveaways. This is going pretty quickly, so I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.